This video is in three parts. In part 1, we look at the alarming decline of top scorers among white American students. We look at the students' decline since 2005 relative to both Asian Americans and Black Americans. Part 2 discusses the cause of American students' decline and its emerging devastating consequences for America. The cause of this decline in counts of top performers has been one key measurable figure. Part 3 is about saving India and others from this cause of devastation. We urge India and other countries to not let this single key measurable figure grow, or the result will be the same devastating decline in top scorers that has hit America. My name is Ashish Siroi. Perhaps nothing is more important to the future of India or that of any other country than what is being discussed here. Part 1. The alarming decline of top scorers among white American students. Most researchers and commentators who compare the educational performance of different ethnic groups by using American standardized tests only look at average scores. Even worse, many look at counts of students who have achieved some minimum score as their benchmark of student success. We are here looking at top scorers. It is in the percentage of top performers where there are dramatic differences between American whites, blacks, and Asians. And the development in the last 2 decades has been the declining counts of top performers among white American students. A comparison of American black and white students shows that standardized testing performance gap between these two groups had been growing wider for decades since the 1960s, with blacks doing increasingly worse. In the latter decades of the 20th century, American testing and education performance data showed white Americans and Asian Americans together as being the group that maintains an outperformance. Then something went wrong with white Americans as they began gapping down from Asian Americans. Around 2005 started a reverse American black-white trend, and scores on standardized tests of black and white students began narrowing around 2005, with white scores declining and moving south towards substantially lower black scores. Such wide decline also brought in a widening gap between Asian Americans and white Americans, including on tests of verbal or English, where white Americans had traditionally been ahead of Asian Americans. From 2005 on, this measurable white American student decline became increasingly visible. SAT and NAEP are the major traditional American standardized tests. SAT is taken by students applying to colleges and evaluates students in math and English. English evaluation means testing on reading and writing, so we will alternatively use those terms too. NAEP, often called the nation's report card, is administered across US schools in grades 4 and 8 and assesses math and reading proficiency. The most dramatic American racial gaps have been in top scorers in standardized tests. Black American students had drastically low counts of top performers, and top scorers is where white American students count are in substantial and rapid decline. Let's look at the decline of white Americans in standardized tests since 2005. Prior to 2005, white Americans outperformed in English, staying ahead of Asian Americans. Asian Americans were ahead of whites in math. Now Asians have gone ahead in reading and English too, with a substantial Asian-white gap appearing among top scorers. Blacks are continuing to underperform all groups. NAEP scores are placed into 3 broad levels by student scores: basic, proficient, and advanced. We will call the group scoring at advanced level to be top scorers. Let's look at 2019 NAEP percentages of students within individual American groups who were top scorers. Grade 8 reading, advanced level. Asian 12%, white 5%, black 1%. Grade 8 math, advanced level. Asian 31%, white 13%, black 2%. A 2021 Washington Post article titled No Systemic Racism, Look at Student Achievement Gaps in Reading makes this argument regarding 2019 NAEP Grade 8 reading scores. Reading ability is a vital skill essential for education and adult life. NAEP recorded rounds to zero for black males reaching the advanced level in 8th grade reading. How is this to be explained if there is no systemic racism in this country? The Washington Post notes that the top performers in reading rounds to zero for black males scoring at advanced level. Black male students have been lagging behind black females in education. This has been a substantial gender gap, far bigger than any gender gap in any other US ethnic group. So that 1% among black top scorers in reading would be largely black females. Blacks are hovering near the bottom with only 1% being top performers in reading, and so do not have much to fall, while whites having 5% performing at top reading level have substantial room to fall. Among American children, there is now a growing gender gap in reading for pleasure in their free time, with boys turning away from such reading more than girls. Though racial data is not available, this becoming a white majority trend would make it appear as the American trend. One can expect white males to show continuing decline in counts of top performers in reading. In typical American mainstream media style, Washington Post asks the question, how is this to be explained if there is no systemic racism in this country? The American media and researchers at left-wing universities see score gaps as proof of systemic racism within America. Of course, the growing Asian white gap does not fit into the systemic racism story because the privileged white race should be outperforming in America rather than increasingly falling behind Asian Americans. The American mainstream media sticks to white-black comparisons and evades the growing Asian-white gap. The part not discussed by mainstream media is that whites are in downward motion when it comes to count of top performers in standardized tests, with white Americans gapping down from Asian Americans and moving in the direction of underperforming black Americans. If systemic racism were the cause of this widening gap at the top level, then systemic racism against whites and in favor of Asians has dramatically increased in the last couple of decades. There is no stopping the growing Asian-white reading gap, and it got worse during the pandemic. In NAEP Grade 4 reading, average scores of Asians went from being 7 points ahead of whites in 2019 to 12 points ahead in 2022. Black males with these reading skills, where those reading at advanced level rounds to zero, would not be expected to reach upper management levels of major companies because being at an advanced reading level is not a lot to ask for such jobs. Meanwhile, Asians are doing increasingly better than white Americans in reaching advanced reading levels. And a new American trend is that more and more Asians are being chosen as C-level managers, CEOs, COOs, etc. of great American companies, going beyond tech companies. Later in this video, we'll answer the mainstream medium question regarding the cause of black student underperformance. And we'll also explain why black males have particularly been the big underperformers in American education and why whites are now in similar decline. SAT is made up of two sections, each of which carries a maximum score of 800. 700 is a key score for SAT math and verbal sections for admissions to top universities. And let's call the ones who reach 700 in an SAT section to be top scorers. The average score in math and verbal sections for admitted students becomes substantially higher than 700 as you go up the university's ladder. Math ability, with one way to measure it being SAT math section scores, has been a substantial cause of black-white percentage differences in choosing science, technology, engineering, and math, collectively called STEM, as college majors. 700 or higher in SAT math is common for college students who successfully pursue STEM majors. In 2005, whites were 9 times as likely as blacks to score 700 or above on SAT math. In 2015, this SAT math white to black ratio of those scoring 700 or above had slipped close to 6. In 2019, this ratio came down to 5. In 2019, 10% of whites and 2% of blacks scored 700 or above on SAT math. The relative white decline trend continues post-pandemic and the ratio has come down to 4. In 2023, 8% of whites and 2% of blacks scored 700 or above on SAT math. An important point to note is that the percentage of black Americans scoring 700 or above is not rising and has been remaining at around 2%. It is the percentage of white Americans reaching 700 that is in decline. Asian Americans are maintaining their top performance counts. While the gap between black and white scores has been closing, the gap between Asian and white scores has been widening. The common driver change causing these two changes is white decline. White scores are declining and moving down closer to black American scores and away from higher Asian American scores. Students applying to American colleges have the option of taking the alternative test ACT. The white majority decline is showing up as overall student decline in ACT scores. A 2018 US News article notes ACT scores decline. This year, math scores dropped to a 20-year low. Time to sound the alarm. Only 4 in 10 students met the math benchmark, the lowest level since 2004. That's a generation of kids below where they were a generation ago. That's a problem. The decline in performance is only getting worse. In 2023, American SAT scores hit the lowest in 30 years. Recent anecdotal American stories noting college students' decline and emerging difficulties with science courses and reading are being called a Generation Z problem. Gen Z, as a reminder, refers to those born from 1997 to 2012. Gen Z decline has become a favorite topic and anecdotal and other stories abound. We are here looking only at education-related decline. Black Americans, even before Gen Z, were already having general excellence and performance problems at college. So that's not news. All indications are that Gen Z Asian Americans continue to excel academically. Physics and math are two majors associated with the highest IQ and are pursued by those who are in the group of topmost scorers in math sections of standardized tests. Only 2% of black Americans top score in SAT math and NAEP math, and not surprisingly, black Americans have had the lowest counts of bachelor's degrees with physics and math as majors. Counts of white Americans doing bachelor's in physics and math will now fall and will show up as a substantial Gen Z decline among American students pursuing physics and math majors. This specific Gen Z decline can already be measured to be in progress. The other part is the Gen Z decline in reading or verbal ability. News in 2024 has college professors from elite universities who have long been teaching complaining that their new students lack both the ability and the willingness to do the assigned reading. The much noted Gen Z decline, which is happening with both science courses and reading at top universities, is the decline of the white majority. American universities and mainstream media like to cover up and evade the reality that this American Gen Z education decline is white decline. And they evade the reality that this white decline in both reading and math ability has been measurably showing up in recent years in standardized tests as an increasing gap in top performer counts between white Americans and Asian Americans. There has been a strong trend of the count of black American males in college being substantially lower than that of black females. Now white Americans are showing the same female-male college gap. A 2021 Wall Street Journal article titled "A Generation of American Men Give Up on College, I Just Feel Lost" cites data showing this white males decline trend. Is there a thumb on the scale for boys? Absolutely. This kind of tacit affirmative action for boys has become higher education's dirty little secret, practiced but not publicly acknowledged. It's unfortunate that we are not giving this issue air and sun so that we can start to address it. The data cited in the article also shows that among Asian Americans, there is no similar collapse in the percentage of males going to college. In America, black males had the behavioral trend of having substantially lower percentages of them going to college than females. Now the white majority is showing this trend. White being the American majority makes white trend emerge as an overall American trend. The ratio of females to males who are graduating from college in America is already close to 3 females for every 2 males. The trend points to this getting worse in America and reaching the situation that for every 1 man who graduates from college, there is going to be 2 women. Let's look at overall percentages of students going to college. Top scorers in the major standardized tests are almost certain to go to college. Let's expand to a larger group of what we can call high scorers in such tests. These high scorers are more likely to go to college than those with scores closer to average. In America, whites and Asians have had the highest percentages of students going to college. Gen Z not going to college is predominantly a white American Gen Z trend. Gen Z Asian Americans are not following Gen Z whites into abandoning pursuit of college. One reason for this would be because Asian Americans are holding on to their large percentages of high scorers. While there is a decline of high scorers among whites, not going to college was an American black male's behavioral trend, and American white male behavior is now becoming similar. Why is this happening to white Americans but not to Asian Americans? We will explain the cause of white American decline some minutes later in part 2 of this video. There we give the cause of why counts of black males going to college was low and how that same cause is now having the same effect on white males. Gen Z whites becoming less likely to go to college would also show up as the wider effect that America's overall Gen Z is less likely to go to college. Indeed, this is the reality, and in 2024 there have been lots of news coverage about American Gen Z students not proceeding to college. A recent article in the Chronicle of Higher Education has a headline that draws clear attention to the reality that is white students' enrollment in college that is in decline relative to students of all other races. White enrollment in college is declining not just relative to Asian American students, but also relative to black students. We have the same scenario we have seen earlier of white students gapping down relative to others. The Chronicle article is titled, "Where are the white students?" and has the subtitle, "A Chronicle analysis shows their numbers are dropping faster than any other groups." The 2024 article regarding declining white enrollment in college notes, over the last decade, undergraduate enrollment of white students has dropped more than that of any other racial group, according to federal data. The disparity has significantly worsened since the pandemic as minority enrollment has begun to stabilize while white enrollment continues to slide. Gen Z Asian Americans want to continue to go to college and to be doctors, engineers, scientists, professors, lawyers, and join other high-paying or highly respected professions that are based on having excellent intellectual abilities and on pursuing higher education. It is white Americans who are moving away from college and from such future jobs. White Americans are moving to academically becoming more like black Americans have long been. The white academic decline will affect the future professions whites hold. As we earlier discussed, black males have had lower percentages of college enrollment than females, and this is also being replicated among whites. Asian Americans are not showing such changes and effects. Asian American men have increasingly higher salaries compared to white American men, and the same holds when we compare Asian American women and white American women. The most persistent trend has been men earning more than women. Part of the reason is men pursuing higher paying fields such as STEM. However, just as black Americans are in professions that earn less, so increasingly now will be whites. A recent development has been that Asian American women now have higher median earnings than white American men. So much for the legendary and historical white male supremacy in America. It seems that the IQ of white Americans is itself declining. Let's directly examine this matter. There has been a strong correlation between SAT scores, NAEP scores, and IQ test scores or cognitive ability. We believe that it's IQ or cognitive ability itself that is falling for white Americans, and there is particularly a decline of top scorers or top level of IQ among white Americans. Let's look at Asian white IQ comparisons using a controversial book on IQ, but one that is well researched in that it heavily cites data for much of its arguments. Note that the bell curve was written in 1994, before the white American decline substantially began. We will review what the book said and how it suggested genetics and IQ model has gone wrong. In discussing ethnic differences in cognitive ability, the bell curve suggests genetics is a substantial factor in causing whites to be better than Asians at verbal ability and Asians to be better at math or quantitative ability. We believe emerging data refutes such claims of the role of genetics. White IQ changing from one generation to the next would probably not be because the genes of the new generation have changed. Many IQ researchers use the term visuospatial, which refers to mathematical or quantitative skills. The bell curve examines verbal and visuospatial, that's mathematical quantitative scores on American admission tests. We quote from the book. Asians were, as usual, higher than whites on the quantitative and lower on the verbal. American Indians and Inuits similarly score higher visuospatially than verbally. Their ancestors migrated to the Americas from East Asia hundreds of centuries ago. Why do visuospatial abilities develop more than verbal abilities in Asians living in the United States and elsewhere? Common genetic history. SAT verbal scores, which is the more highly G-loaded of the SAT subsets, if we estimate the correlation between SAT verbal and IQ as plus 0.65. The bell curve was talking of alleged genetic Asian-white differences that have been preserved from hundreds of centuries ago and have carried through. Note that the G loaded in the last line is technical jargon associated with tests and IQ, and it connects SAT verbal to IQ, and the book here is discussing what it calls verbal intelligence. But there have been dramatic developments since the 1994 publication year of the bell curve. The book authors and other researchers could not imagine that white Americans would break the supposed genetic advantage, which bestows them with higher verbal intelligence, by falling below Asians on verbal tests. The white verbal English SAT fall is being confirmed by a similar fall in verbal English ACT and NAEP scores. Asian Americans have been doing increasingly better than whites in all four ACT sections: English, reading, math, and science. The American testing reality was that Asians and whites excelled, with Asians having an advantage in math and whites in verbal. No one in the American media or universities was expecting this bifurcation to change, and certainly not those who believed in the race and genetics model of the bell curve. The recent Students for Fair Admissions versus Harvard case, which case Harvard lost, brought to the public information regarding Harvard giving preferences to whites over Asians. Let's look at a Harvard admissions official's quote that became public through the court case against Harvard. The Harvard admissions official disparages Asians by saying, Asian applications I've read, extraordinarily gifted in math, with the opposite extreme in English. Admissions officers at Harvard and other top American universities had been used to the bell curve type world where Asians were good at math and whites at English or verbal. The world has now changed with Asian Americans increasingly ahead of white Americans in both math and English. 2005 can be identified as a key year when the fall of white cognitive abilities started becoming recognizable. We discussed earlier the ACT article Screaming in 2018 about scores fall compared to 2004. 2005 onward has been measurably downhill for white students in both verbal and math. Whites had previously been ahead of Asians in NAEP reading. By 2005, Asians had caught up, and Asian and white average scores became equal on NAEP 8th grade reading. From 2005 on, Asians have been taking an increasing lead over whites in NAEP 8th grade reading. Asians have long been ahead of whites in NAEP math, but since 2005 that math performance gap has also been widening. Asians being increasingly ahead of whites in both math and verbal parts of standardized tests is causing problems for college admission of officials, and they have been finding new ways to maintain white counts. The case against Harvard noted that white students are being given higher personality and other such points by Harvard admission staff. At one time, American IQs had been increasing as seen from the famous headline, IQ of Americans Massive Gains 1932 to 1978. Such headline is regarding a phenomenon known as the Flynn effect, after the IQ researcher who discovered it, and the quote, IQ of Americans Massive Gains 1932 to 1978 is the title of his famous paper. How things have changed in this new century. What has been measurably happening since 2005 is a fall in the IQ or cognitive ability of the American white majority in both math and verbal, and it has a long way to go. It has a long way to go because the cause of this decline is not going away. A study involving 400,000 Americans who took IQ tests between 2006 and 2018 was published in March 2023. Let's look at some of the news headlines regarding this study. New York Post. IQ scores in the US have fallen for the first time in decades, study suggests. Forbes. American IQ scores show recent declines according to new study. Other news headlines. Scientists report drop in young people's IQs. IQ scores in US drop for the first time in nearly a century. Why are we getting dumber? The study does not have performance breakup by race. We believe the IQ decline captured here is largely that of the American white majority. The IQ results are as expected from the decline of standardized test scores of white Americans in the same 2006 to 2018 period relative to other race groups. Whites are the American majority, so their decline manifests as American decline. New York Post and Forbes covered the story, as did many smaller news outlets. However, the largest American news publications have chosen to evade this emerging reality of American IQ decline. New York Times, Washington Post, and CNN like to evade certain truths. However, American mainstream media, being hostile to the pursuit of such unpopular truths, will not make the truth of white and American IQ decline and its consequences for America go away. The new trend is not just an increasing Asian-white gap within the same income group, but poorer Asians increasingly outperforming richer whites in all academic measures. It's not just in admissions to top colleges where this growing Asian-white gap is showing up. It's also occurring in admissions to top competitive high schools. Thomas Jefferson High School for Science and Technology, TJ, in the Washington, D.C. area, has often been ranked as the very best school in the US. In 2000, at TJ, white American students were around 70% and Asian Americans around 20%. By 2020, TJ was 73% Asian Americans, with whites down to 18% and blacks about 1%. The American left wing wants to change the admissions criteria at TJ and other places to make top American schools more racially diverse. Conservatives believe in preserving traditional merit-based admissions despite the racial disparities in student counts that result from it. White conservative George F. Will notes in an op-ed regarding TJ titled, "Today's Anti-Asian Racism Usually Disguises Itself as Diversity." County officials have said that the purpose is to engineer a student body in which racial and ethnic groups are proportional to their shares of the county's population. This means that most beneficiaries will be white. The county is 60% white, 20% Asian. The same white decline that occurred at TJ is now happening at top schools across the US. The top 3 New York City schools, Stuyvesant, Bronx Science, and Brooklyn Tech, accept students based on a common admissions test. These schools have a math and science focus. In recent decades, the big chunk of these top New York City math and science focused schools has been white and Asian. In earlier decades, whites at these top three New York City schools were over 70%, but by 2019, whites had fallen to about 20%, with Asians exceeding 70%. Why has the Asian to white admissions ratio gone so highly in favor of Asians? It roughly matches the ratio of top scores in standardized tests. We see percentages of Asians at these top high schools to be 3 to 4 times that of whites. That matches the ratio of Asian top scorers to white top scorers in standardized tests. In 2019, 25% of Asians and 8% of whites scored in the top 1400 to 1600 band on SAT. In SAT math, 37% of Asians and 10% of whites scored 700 or above. Thus, we have a ratio of 3 to 4 times when comparing Asian top scorer counts to whites. At SAT Math 750 to 800, which is the top math ability, the Asian-white ratio gets worse. These elite schools have a math and science focus and admit those with the top math abilities. The percentage of blacks scoring at top levels in math, 700 in SAT Math or advanced level in NAEP Math, has been abysmal, being at 2%, and that explains why blacks have had very low percentages in these top schools. Mainstream media such as the New York Times and Washington Post like to run headlines which note that low black counts at such top schools is not consistent with diversity. The mainstream media is looking to mold public opinion into scrapping traditional admissions criteria, citing low black and Latino counts. However, blacks were never competitive with whites and Asians on the admissions tests at these top math and science centered schools. A conservative New York newspaper, countering mainstream media, noted that at these top schools, the advancement of Asian students has come overwhelmingly at the expense of more affluent whites. In support, the newspaper cited that half of the students at Stuyvesant and Bronx Science qualify for free or subsidized school lunches, which is a federal poverty measure. Whites had the admissions test performance and large student numbers at these schools, but these kept declining as Asians increasingly outperformed whites at the top. The new and extraordinary American education story is the decline in counts of white children at the top level that has resulted in whites becoming the minority in these schools which they once dominated. Part 2. The cause of American students' decline and the devastating consequences. Let's now get to the cause of white students' decline. The most dramatic white American student performance decline has been in counts of white Americans who are top scorers on standardized tests. Top scorers also where counts of black students have been the lowest. We have previously many times mentioned 2005 as a key year when white decline became noticeable. Before 2005, the gap between American white and black students had been getting wider, with blacks in continued relative decline. What had been getting worse among black American students relative to whites prior to 2005, and then what started going wrong with white American students relative to blacks and Asians. It is one single number that is the cause of these measured relative shifts among American white, black, Asian students. Single parent family percentage within these groups. The single parent growth is being driven by growing counts of birth to unmarried mothers. Recent US data shows births to unmarried mothers to be 40% overall, 70% for blacks and 28% for whites. A birth to an unmarried mother can take 15 to 20 years before it transforms into showing its full effect in the education system all the way up to college performance. The single parent effect gradually builds up over the years and its effects begin to become very noticeable by the time the single parent family number for a group hits 25%. White Americans reached this 25% birth to unmarried mothers figure around 2005, growing from being around 3% in 1965. Black Americans had reached the 25% births to unmarried mothers figure around 1965, and the figure continued to increase in the following decades, reaching 70% in the mid-1990s and has since hovered there. It could be that some of these out-of-wedlock children have an undeclared father who stays long-term with the child and mother, just as a married father does, so that cannot be considered a single parent family. But much American data shows this to substantially not be the case, and unmarried fathers are gone early. Research shows them to mostly be gone by the third year or the fifth year after the birth of a child. In fact, in the US, most of the increase in births to unmarried mothers in recent decades has occurred due to unplanned pregnancies resulting from live-in relationships, as research by Sarah McLanahan, Isabel Sohel, and others shows. While black Americans were moving to high single-parent family counts relative to whites, Asian Americans trended to maintaining even lower single-parent family counts than whites. These two American minorities increasingly diverged in school performance relative to whites. Then, as white Americans began to shift substantially from two-parent family to single-parent family, white student performance began a downhill path that is heading towards that of black students. Early childhood years is when the brain is believed to be the most malleable and when IQ and other mental characteristics emerge. We believe that IQ tests will show us high difference between young single-parent and two-parent children at the top band. White student educational problems certainly cannot be blamed on racism. That American white student data has begun converging to black student data as black and white single-parent family percentages move towards each other also suggests that it was not racial discrimination that was the substantial cause of continued black student divergence from white students. Further, there was always the problem of Asians outperforming whites in schools and having lower disciplinary counts. NAEP scores, as discussed earlier, are the early tests administered to American students. These are lining up to match the single-parent family percentage of races, with the highest single-parent family percentage group showing the greatest underperformance. School misbehavior data is similarly aligned to single-parent family percentage. Shifts in white students' relative performance, visible since 2005, enables the study of the single-parent family effect, free of possible entanglements of systemic racism. How could America have missed the danger signals about single-parent family? Will democracy, freedom of speech, university research, and media not bring about an open debate that examines the single-parent family and settles the truth regarding its dangers? The single-parent family has been in debate in America since 1965. However, the single-parent family effect was denied by scholars at left-wing American universities and by the mainstream media as being a cause of student failure and other failure, and that denialism continues today. These two groups won and America lost. A controversial report linking single-parent family to education underperformance and other problems appeared in 1965. The writer was Daniel Patrick Moynihan, a Democrat from New York working in the Labor Department under President Lyndon Johnson. It came to popularly be known as the Moynihan Report. Moynihan soon after left his position. He went on to hold various posts including professor, ambassador, and senator. The report pointed to the black family structure as the major cause of educational and other youth problems. The thesis was that single-parent family damages children. The report centered on one single number, births to unmarried mothers. Among blacks, this number had reached about 25% by 1965, while the white number was around 3%. The report concluded regarding the effects of single-parent family. Black Americans expect that equal opportunities for them as a group will produce roughly equal results as compared with other groups. And the Moynihan report predicted that this is not going to happen, nor will it happen for generations to come. That prediction has come true as blacks have continued to remain at the bottom in education and salaries, with every minority group surpassing them, despite many families of these new minority students not having English as their home language. Association of single-parent family with low IQ was also part of the report. The report noted that, quote, The IQs of children with fathers in the home are always higher than those who have no father in the home. Lyndon Johnson gave a commencement address at Howard University, spelled Howard, in June 1965, which made points from the Moynihan Report. The speech pointed out that, quote, the income of black men relative to white men declined in every section of this country, as did the situation of black teenage boys. The speech noted that black college women continued to do well. The 1965 Lyndon Johnson speech made additional points from the Moynihan Report. Perhaps most important, its influence radiating to every part of life is the breakdown of the black family structure. At this moment tonight, little less than two-thirds of black children are at home with both of their parents. And when the family collapses, it is the children that are usually damaged. When it happens on a massive scale, the community itself is crippled. So unless we work to strengthen the family, to create conditions under which most parents will stay together, all the rest will never be enough. The two major left-wing American groups, mainstream media and university professors, both ferociously charged at the report, with many denouncing Moynihan as a racist. The left-wing argument was, and today still is, that it was systemic racism and not single-parent family that was the cause of black American children lagging other groups in education. Moynihan wrote describing the aftermath of the report and the Howard University presidential speech. His audience was not in the least prepared for such a speech, nor was the press. The White House dissociated itself from the report and the subject. Order was restored and soon the old orthodoxies were securely back in place. The reaction of the liberal left to the issue of the black family was decisive. They would have none of it. College professors waxed absolutely lyric on the subject of the female-headed household. The liberal left can be as rigid and destructive as any force in American life. I found myself the object of incredible accusations, some of them from academia, going quite beyond the border of fair comment. White left-wing professor William Ryan's article titled Savage Discovery, the Moynihan Report tore into Moynihan, seduces the reader into believing that it is not racism and discrimination. Implicit point is that blacks tolerate promiscuity, illegitimacy, one-parent families, that unemployment, poor education result from family breakdown, myths and lies. In 1965, American mainstream media and university scholars attacked and successfully dismissed the Moynihan Report and today continue their ways. For black underperformance, there were other possible causes beyond family structure: economic gap, systemic racism and low-quality schools, which were differentiators from whites. These other causes became strongly preferred by American academic researchers and mainstream media. As black family economics became better and school differences fell, with more and more blacks moving into the middle class and going to the same schools as whites, school performance gaps between whites and blacks persisted, particularly at top performance levels. Continued systemic racism remained the one cause the left wing could hold on to, perhaps forever, rather than admit the prime role of family structure. What is now available and what did not exist before is a white student family structure shift, with whites crossing 25% single-parent family in 2005. Explaining white decline is now the towering problem for the left wing, with racism not being the cause. The increasing Asian-white gap is particularly a dilemma for the systemic racism argument as being the explanation for racial performance gaps. Continued major research supports the Moynihan Report in its thesis of how single-parent family negatively affects children. Sarah McLanahan emerged as the foremost expert in single-parent family, and even left-wing scholars acknowledge her landmark study. She has gotten respect in media coverage across the spectrum, though the left-wing likes to water down her research. McLanahan is particularly noted for a 15-year national survey of fragile families. The term fragile families refers to families having a child born to an unmarried mother. McLanahan summarizes. As compared with children born to married parents, those born to unmarried parents have lower scores on cognitive tests, more mental health problems, and more physical health problems. Children in these families do less well, aggression, particularly among boys. As Lyndon Johnson noted in above 1965 speech founded on the Moynihan Report, and McLanahan and others note in their studies, it is male children that are more affected by single-parent family. That single-parent family leads not just to academic underperformance, but also to school misbehavior has been well documented. Single-parent family male students lower academic performance and higher behavioral problems through the school years end up producing a major resulting effect. This effect is that far less single-parent family males proceed to college than females. The counts of black males going to college has been substantially lower than the counts of black females. With the growth of the single-parent family among whites, the number of white males going to college has similarly been becoming far less than the number of white females. The school misbehavior is higher among the higher single-parent family group is also confirmed by self-reported school data. The percentage of American black students in grades 9 to 12 who self-reported having been in a physical fight on school property in 2019 was 2.5 times the percentage of white students. In the UK, we have the situation of two groups being of the same race but having different single-parent family percentages. This type of group comparison within the same race is not available in American student data. Disciplinary rate and academic underperformance have a high racial correlation in the UK as they do in the US. In the UK, blacks are broken into two groups. Black Caribbean families are 63% single parent, while Black African are 43% single parent. Indian origin families in the UK have the lowest single parent family rate at 6%. A March 2021 report by UK's Commission on Race and Ethnic Disparities analyzed student data. Black Caribbeans were substantially the worst performers of all groups in both academic scores and school discipline, with Indians performing best. Indian boys in the lowest socioeconomic status group academically outperformed Black Caribbean boys in the highest socioeconomic group. The Black Caribbean expulsion and suspension rate was twice that of Black African. Any systemic racism factor between the two black groups would arguably be expected to be similar. If racism of UK teachers and administrators is the cause of these black students' underperformance and high rates of disciplinary actions, then these UK teachers substantially discriminate more against the Black Caribbean group than the Black African. Further, these supposedly racist UK teachers, who are mostly white, also favor the two-parent family non-white group, Asians, over whites. The UK report further notes that Asian students have much larger rates of progression to higher education than both white British and black students. And as expected, the report shows that black Caribbeans have the worst. Family researcher Raj Chetty has gained academic acclaim and is today one of the most famous and influential economists in the world, getting acknowledgement and coverage of his scholarship from across the spectrum. Slate is a left-wing publication, and it's nice to see the left-wing acknowledge truth regarding single-parent family. A Slate article titled Family Matters: What is the most important factor blocking social mobility? Single Parents Suggest a New Study asks, what are the factors preventing poor children from getting ahead? The article notes that Raj Chetty and others suggest a cause progressives may find discomforting regarding community characteristics most likely to predict mobility for lower income children. The cause the left wing may find discomforting is the negative single parent family effect. Slate quotes directly from the study. The strongest and most robust predictor is the fraction of children with single parent families, and children of married parents also have higher rates of upward mobility if they live in communities with fewer single parents. Chetty's research shows that it's not just the family structure the child grows up in that matters, but also the structure of other families around. Thus, two-parent family neighborhoods are additionally needed for upward mobility of children. Beyond the child's two-parent family, Chetty's research shows that it takes a village or a neighborhood of two-parent families to raise a child who will be a top performer. As America goes single-parent family, even two-parent family children will be affected and will not perform equal to two-parent family children living in two-parent family countries. Further, American schools are being highly disrupted and will not be a good place for pursuit of academic excellence. Putting all this together, one can argue that American two-parent families will have to take their young kids to countries with two-parent families and have them grow up there for them to be as capable as Americans were before the single-parent epidemic hit the white majority and enveloped the country. Left-wing America continues to dream that single-parent effects are not reality and equality or equity can be achieved despite this effect. Many in the American left wing see an objective measure of America achieving educational equality to be when the percentage of black Americans at top universities equal to their percentage of the population. At left-wing American colleges and universities, there are often marches in favor of reaching this equality. And a second measure that has emerged as a measure of equality in American schools is for black Americans to be disciplined at the same percentage rate as white Americans. President Barack Obama's Attorney General Eric Holder led a 2014 joint Department of Justice and Department of Education mandate to reduce the disciplining of black students across American schools. These departments noted that blacks are suspended or expelled at over 3 times the rate of white students. To understand the cause of the performance and disciplinary black-white racial inequalities in America, let's look at another racial inequality, and this inequality is actually getting worse. At top American universities, Asian Americans are far more than their percentage of the population, and whites are far less than the percentage of the population. And within American schools, whites are suspended or expelled at a rate that is about twice that of their Asian peers. College admissions and school disciplinary numbers show glaring inequalities between white Americans and Asian American students within the American system. When will white American students' percentage at top universities rise to become equal to their percentage of the US population? When will white Americans in school achieve equality to low Asian American rates of school suspension and expulsion? The answer to both these questions, never. Word to the wise, single-parent family growth seems to be irreversible. The percentages of top scorers and student disciplinary rates are related to family structure. The higher the single-parent family, the lower the top scorers and the higher the school misbehavior. Never is a strong word, but note that black single-parent counts only kept getting worse and never significantly reversed, going from 25% in 1965 to 70% and staying around there. Looking across the world, we have not seen a substantial reversal in the single-parent family count of any group or country, and that is why growth in births to unmarried mothers is a dangerous one-way event. Affirmative action in America, as a reminder, refers to race-based preferences. Affirmative action was a legal path to move towards racial equality in admissions to top colleges, and it was particularly used to increase black counts. There has been what is called stealth affirmative action, which refers to creative racial choice practices used by top American universities, and these include ways to give preference to whites over Asians. And many are pushing for stealth affirmative action in school discipline in the form of equalizing numbers between ethnic groups. In 2023, affirmative action in college admissions was made illegal by the US Supreme Court. However, stealth affirmative action is the permanent means available for the American left wing to pursue their racial preference ideologies. Let us look at college admissions data after affirmative action has been made illegal. Let us look at the new black, white, and Latino admissions percentages at top universities such as Harvard and compare these percentages to the population percentage of these three groups. We see blacks to be doing the best by this measure, followed by whites and then Latinos. This is despite black applicants having the lowest scores and also lagging at other academic criteria. Between blacks and Latinos, the left wing that governs top American universities always gives stealth preference to blacks. High single parent family does not just cause disparity between groups in the same country, but affects the future of a country as a whole. BRICS, BRICS stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. These are considered emerging economies and powers. However, two of these have been substantially hit by single-parent family and thus have no upcoming future as economic leaders. They will lack the top IQ and top performing students that are needed for a country to excel educationally and to have great and innovative companies. Both Brazil and South Africa are now over 50% single-parent family. So looking at the future, we can cross out B and S as being great future economies or powers and are left with Russia, India, China. Headlines such as all across Latin America, unwed mothers are now the norm shows how fast single-parent family lifestyle can grow across countries. The consequences of such a development means that while the upcoming decades could lead into an Asian century, they will certainly not lead to any Latin American century. So we can cross out Latin America. School behavior problems are growing in US, Brazil and South Africa as a result of single-parent family growth. America has been a much richer country compared to Brazil and South Africa. Quality of American schools, school systems and teachers has been high and government spending per student is among the highest in the world. However, student behavioral problems are similarly growing in all three countries, driven by the same single-parent family cause. In America, black students are known to bully other blacks for acting white. Barack Obama and others have urged for a change in black attitudes and want to, as Obama puts it, quote, eradicate the slander that says a black youth with a book is acting white. You certainly never see Asians harass others by saying that an Asian with a book is acting white. Black American children mostly grow up fatherless, and the gang leader in the school or neighborhood can become like a father they never had. Gang leaders are usually underperformers who do not like books, and they particularly like to harass top students and disrespect teachers in their schools. A reporter from a left-wing publication, looking at NAEP scores trend, rebelled against his colleagues by asking questions that conservative publications often pose. Our white children are continuing to fall behind. These results obviously demonstrate that there is something wrong with white culture, even though politically correct liberals try to tap dance around it. Is it because white families don't value education, or because white kids are ostracized if they act Asian? Everything that has been wrong with black culture in America is more and more being replicated in white culture as part of the education and school behavior decline associated with single-parent family. Thomas Sowell notes how hardcore troublemakers can cause good education to become impossible and notes the enormous toll of a few destructive students. A great American crisis occurring in American school discipline as school misbehavior rates of the white majority move in the direction of high black student misbehavior rates, which has been happening as white single-parent family percentage rises. Harassment and slander through personal and sexual claims seems to be a growing favorite in US, Brazil and South Africa, with social media as a new method to spread personal rumors. In schools in two-parent countries, such as India and China, There are of course conflicts between students, but disputes do not lead to highly personal level of attacks. That maintenance of a higher order in student interaction and exchanges seems to be part of the general effect of two-parent families and neighborhoods. In India and China, top performers are respected in the classroom by all, rather than being targets for harassment. There is a vast difference in school culture and behavior between two-parent countries such as India and China, which respect teachers and nurture and applaud academic achievement, and high single-parent countries such as US, Brazil, and South Africa, where underperforming bullies and gang members increasingly mock and harass those striving for excellence. The increasing student misbehavior is putting a considerable strain on US teachers, particularly as they come under pressure to bear it. Further, many American left-wing politicians and mainstream media writers have been demanding that teachers and schools deliver racial equality in school discipline and performance. Teachers in all these three high single-parent countries, US, Brazil, and South Africa, are reporting that student behavior has been the worst they have ever seen, and large numbers of teachers are fleeing this profession entirely. A Gallup 2022 American Workforce Study shows school workers always or very often feel burnt out at work, outpacing all other industries nationally, and highlights that the gap between K to 12 and other industries has widened. It further noted that teachers are the most burnt out. A 2022 extensive study of school personnel conducted by a task force of the American Psychological Association generated the headline Violence, Threats, and Harassment Are Taking a Toll on Teachers. Survey shows. News stories about US teachers choosing to quit abound. Teachers are calling it quits. Never seen it this bad. America faces catastrophic teacher shortage. Teachers are quitting in droves because they are scared of student violence and a lack of punishment. Why I quit teaching? Teachers tell stories of threats, abuse, depression. America is the world's superpower by economic and other measures. American strength has been founded on its technology, its excellent companies, and its university research and training. Great universities last very long and retain leadership for very long periods. America has the highest counts of these. Educational excellence and longevity of universities' leadership would, however, be dependent on student quality not declining. STEM is where single-parent family children are the weakest, and that is becoming the biggest contributor to the modern economy. A country with such growing single-parent family counts cannot remain a STEM leader, and that leadership is today essential for America to continue to be the leading economic power. America is becoming well aware that its own students are declining, particularly in STEM, and foreigners are increasingly needed. STEM college majors need top-level math skills and hard work, which traits are in decline among the American white majority children, but not similarly in decline among children in Asia. An article regarding visa changes made in 2022 to ease employment rules to retain foreign STEM students has the subtitle Moves are designed to boost innovation in the US while keeping pace with competitors such as China. The great irony is that students from India and China form the bulk of these foreign STEM students. The tiny Asian American minority or foreign students cannot counter the growing decline in STEM student counts and general educational decline of the American white majority. There is a triple hit on STEM in America and the West. STEM is pursued by those who are high scorers in math sections of standardized tests, and this is a shrinking group among the American white majority. Males have traditionally dominated STEM majors, but American boys are worse affected by single-parent families than girls, and as we discussed, more and more white American males are not even making it to college. Percentage of women choosing STEM is much higher in countries that are overwhelmingly two-parent families. India and China have much higher percentages of girls choosing STEM compared to America and Europe. As American and European colleges become more women dominated, the lower percentages of women choosing STEM will hit STEM student counts in the West hard. Beyond STEM, with reading ability in decline and this beginning to show up even among those with degrees from top universities, all types of American companies will suffer. They will not find old-style excellent candidates that made their companies the top in the world. Great companies need the universities to provide them with excellent students who become outstanding leaders and employees. The family structure collapse is a dramatic change that has been occurring in America and has caused excellence in the form of top scorers and top band of IQ to increasingly go missing in America. No country can remain a great power without such excellence. America, followed by Western civilization, will fall as a result of the white majority increasingly becoming single-parent family. Fall does not mean the total crash or ruin of a civilization. Western civilization will continue as a group of nations which lag behind the two-parent family civilizations that will come to dominate our planet. The truth regarding the consequences of single-parent family that American mainstream media and American universities have been evading is now marching roughshod over America and Western civilization. The shifts within civilization will demonstrate the truth that should have been openly discussed and realized. Nations with high single-parent family percentages cannot long hold up against nations that remain overwhelmingly two-parent family. Part 3. Saving India and others from the cause of devastation. Growth in single-parent family percentage is devastating for a group or country. The future economic and technological powers will exclusively be from the group of countries that remain overwhelmingly two-parent family. We believe that India and China can and will avoid the births to unmarried mothers epidemic that has hit so many countries in the last 50 years. But they must be cautious and carefully watch the births to unmarried mothers rate. At the time of the 1965 Moynihan Report, the births to unmarried mothers percentage was around 3% among white Americans, and no substantial or quick growth was expected. It was looked at as a black American problem. The 1965 Moynihan Report includes the conclusion, quote, "The white family has achieved a high degree of stability and is maintaining that stability. But that white American family structure stability turned out to be a wishful delusion, and white births to unmarried mothers began slowly increasing decade after decade. And America silently watched this growth without wide awareness regarding the consequences for America. Today, people in India, China, and many other countries may look at births to unmarried mothers as a foreign problem and not see any possibility of this happening in their country. But recent history has shown that such blind confidence may not be wise. Both India and China today have a lack of awareness regarding the seriousness of the single-parent family matter and do not even seem to know the counts of births to unmarried mothers. We are in the optimistic camp and believe India and other ancient civilizations to be immune from the births to unmarried mothers epidemic. Greece is the ancient civilization of Europe and, unsurprisingly, has had the lowest rate of births to unmarried mothers in Europe. In Greece, birth to unmarried mothers was under 2% in mid-1980s and is now moving into the double-digit area. The increases in birth to unmarried mothers in Greece seem to substantially be driven by people from other European countries who moved to Greece. We will focus further in India. We in India and other countries must know and watch the birth to unmarried mothers rate to be sure that all remains well. Many Indians have what is called a colonial mindset. Many among the Indian left-wing media, scholars and politicians can be led by their colonial mindset to unquestioningly follow the American left-wing and accept their arguments that today's world makes the move to single-parent family inevitable. Indian intellectuals with a colonial mindset would never critically examine what Western scholars and mainstream media teach and assert. Among Indian families, the colonial mindset can be strongest in cosmopolitan centers, where many want to exactly copy American lifestyles. America is cool and they want to be cool. It is among these Indian West emulating groups that birth to unmarried mothers can start growing as a lifestyle. Let us look at a video from the YouTube channel of an Indian company, Myntra, that describes itself as a fashion and lifestyle company. The Myntra video is about a single mother named Namrata living with her daughter named Ambika. The video is titled Single Parenting My Choice and ends with Namrata, the single mother, lecturing an older neighbor who believes in the traditional two-parent family. Let's read from the Myntra video description itself. When her neighbor said that Ambika needs to be with her father as well, Namrata says, Ambika is my daughter. Since her birth, she only knows me and she doesn't need anyone else. That is the woman of today, bold, beautiful and courageous. The details and circumstances that led to the single parent choice are not stated in the Myntra YouTube video. It is not clear if the video is presenting the case of a birth to an unmarried mother. The comments under the YouTube video are generally full of support for the single mother and for the lecture she gives to the neighbor. The woman's child has a big role in the Myntra video, which shows her playing and going to school. All seems to be going great for the child and mother, but what the video depicts may be the bliss of ignorance. What is very important for Indian women and men of today to know before they make any choice of being a single parent is the effect of such choice on the child and on the future of the child. Let's look at another video regarding Indian single parents. Sansad TV is an Indian government channel and this video is from its show Pulse, which describes itself as a show that puts a spotlight on issues relating to society. The video is titled Single Mothers, Family Structures and Choices. The video discusses a UN report that states that 4.5% of households in India are run by single mothers. Note that the 4.5% are single mothers, not single parents. The same UN report says that 7.5% of households in India are single parent. Both the 4.5% single mother and the 7.5% single parent figures would be bad news if accurate and are higher than estimates we had expected for India. We had thought that single parents would be under 5% for India, including all single parent types and causes, such as death of a spouse, divorce, separation, and births to unmarried mothers. The discussion panel in the Sansad video includes an official who would be expected to know the single parent figures for India but does not, and informs that the actual Indian figures, quote, could be bigger, could be smaller. The major topic of our video is the effect of births to unmarried mothers. These counts are growing like an epidemic in many countries. The discussion panel in the Sansad video does not go into births to unmarried mothers, nor does it go into the measurable negative effects of single-parent family on children. Many countries, including the US, have this birth to unmarried mothers data openly available at a government website. The Indian government needs to similarly maintain this data for India and make it available. That there are births to unmarried mothers in India is not in doubt, and the number is certainly not zero. And the growth of this number is not an intellectual curiosity, but comes with consequences for India. Most births today are officially registered in India, but it's not clear if they collect the marital status of the mother. It seems that the matter is up to state jurisdictions that follow no constant policy. Keeping needed birth data would require a simple question at birth registration, such as are you currently married and date of marriage? And if the answer is no, then further details can be asked. If not currently married, then it's a birth to an unmarried mother. We are certainly not in favor of harassing anyone. These birth registration answers do not have to go on the printed birth certificate that the parent gets as the child's date of birth proof. US and other countries already collect marital status data at time of birth, and their methodology can be examined. More and more Indian students going abroad to study in America and other countries is big news in India. Both America and leading European countries increasingly have foreign students as a major part of their plan to maintain the research and innovation leadership that the universities and companies currently have. America needs more and more Indian, Chinese and other foreign students to maintain the needed American top student counts and STEM student counts. Again, this is because of the top scorers decline among the white American majority, as a result of the negative effects of single-parent family. The intellectually challenging professions in America are more and more taken up by foreigners from two-parent families. American CEOs, engineers, science PhDs, and others are increasingly foreign-born. There have been many news stories about rising counts of Indian-born CEOs of American companies, with many of them having completed their school years in India. Indian Americans have the highest earnings of all ethnic groups in America, ahead of other Asian Americans, and far ahead of white Americans. That shows a resident potential to be the world leader, which is the position India seemingly held in the old days. The link to family structure is again seen here, with the highest earnings group, Indian Americans, having the lowest percentage of births to unmarried mothers in America, while the lowest earners, Black Americans, have the highest births to unmarried mothers percentage. That top scorers go missing among Black Americans can be seen as early as grade 4 NAEP scores. India and Indians must never give up this family structure advantage and must never succumb to the growth in births to unmarried mothers trend that is hitting groups and countries worldwide. The West today is ahead of India, and that may seem like a permanent situation to many in India. However, we are looking at the coming decades with India maintaining the pipeline of top scorers coming out of Indian schools, while such top scorers go increasingly missing in the West. There is no doubt that large numbers of such students from India will continue to go to the West. However, the increasing counts of top foreigners from two-parent family countries such as India and China will not be able to match the decrease in top performers among the large white majority. The STEM intellectual and economic lead that Western civilization holds will therefore begin to decline. As the Western lead over the rest of the world declines, top-level foreign students will no longer flock there in large numbers. Without this large incoming flow of foreign top students, the Western decline will accelerate. We have nothing against any country or group. It is just reality that single-parent countries and groups are going to be declining in this competitive world where top scorers with needed intelligence, math skills, reading skills, and education are becoming the key to a country's future. India, China, and others are set on a course to victory if they can hold on to the two-parent family. Being optimistic, we believe that in India, the births to unmarried mothers is still under 0.5%, and that India can stop growth of this number and keep this count at rounds to 0% forever. Anything under 0.5% by standard mathematical practice can be rounded off to 0%. But first we need to get the figure to make sure it has not already crossed the rounds to 0%. Low numbers is where this figure can be stopped the easiest and can be maintained at close to 0% level or pushed back to being close to 0. Indians must start comparing and watching this births to unmarried mothers figure for every fraction of a percent move if India is to keep it at rounds to 0% and watch it forever. If India cannot stop the growth of this births to unmarried mothers number while the figure is close to 0%, there is no reason for India to expect to win the battle at some arbitrary higher number. People can become hostile to the negative reality about single-parent family as these families grow, because more and more they will know someone who is dear to them and is a single parent. India is a democracy with elections, and politicians who can face very close elections are often looking to secure a growing group of voters and can become champions of single-parent families if they see this vote bank growing. As unmarried mothers grew in the US, there appeared many supporters of such single-parent family concept among politicians. The same American trend can be replicated in India. It will get harder and harder to stop the continuing growth of these births to unmarried mothers at a later point. Thus, India should begin to compile and watch this number. Given the rapid single-parent family currents flowing in our world, delay and procrastination in implementing this could prove costly. Why would India and China cling to the two-parent family and not join US, Europe, Brazil, South Africa, and the increasing list of countries with high percentages of single-parent families. Perhaps the wisdom of thousands of years of great sages and philosophers has a hold over India and China. However, wisdom has its basis in knowledge and pursuit of truth. And it would be wise of Indians to become knowledgeable regarding the measurable negative effects of growth in births to unmarried mothers, and to start watching that figure. We consider ourselves to be a philosopher and researcher. Within Europe and America, many would consider themselves these, but their common philosophy seems to be to safely stay within the lines drawn for them, and evade truth does not lie within these lines. Freedom to pursue and speak unpopular truth is increasingly going missing in America, with cancel culture ready to persecute those who do. What has not been realized by America and the West is that there can and will be serious consequences for such lack of freedom and for evading key truths. The truth regarding the effect of single-parent family on a country and civilization does not go away by evading this truth. The love affair between single-parent family and the American left wing continues. Both American mainstream media and social media are buzzing with the new concept of what is being called single mothers by choice, whereby a single woman has a baby through fertilization methods. Single mothers by choice would fall under births to unmarried mother counts and would have all the negative effects that single parent upbringing has on children. Many in the Indian left-wing media are aping the US mainstream media and admiring this new single mothers by choice innovation and are excitedly writing about Indian single women who have chosen or are considering this method. Such births to single women are minuscule, but both the US and Indian media are intrigued. Among Indian news stories, one can see headlines that children from single parent households do just as well or other such general declaration. Such Indian media news stories do not mention the truth regarding missing top performers and behavioral problems among children from single parent households. The media not giving the public the full story on single parent family children and choosing headlines that mislead has been the American problem, and it seems to possibly be on the way to becoming an Indian one. Indian media that lack independence and unthinkingly adopt the ways of Western mainstream media by joining in evading truth on these family matters can become a serious problem for India. I make the below request to those in India and equally also to those in other countries who find this relevant. Please forward this video to those who have power, influence and government connections. Only the government can put into place the process of compiling and publishing the births to unmarried mothers percentage. Please also forward to those who would be facing life choices and to those who would possibly like to inform family and friends regarding such choices and their effect on the future of children. Equally importantly, forward this to those who may be interested in the general matter. Indians must save their future by working together to maintain India as a country where births to unmarried mothers continue to round to 0% forever. Thank you for watching. Your questions and comments are most welcome.